to part 1 of Beyond the Struggle this week. Back at it with Jeff Monroe. Welcome back.
Thank you.
From your sabbatical.
Thank you.
Mental health sabbatical. And guys, we're here this week with special guest, Ryan Murphy. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome.
See, I'm glad you did the introduction because I just forgot Ryan's name just like that. I'm just thinking Ryan. I was on a little break because, I took a little vacation. And,
yeah, it's important.
Well, also, my fiance now got on her knees and proposed to me.
No, that's not how that happened. But we'll let you tell that story, man.
Yeah, did get engaged.
Congrats, man. Got engaged. That's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
I can't believe she said
like
she said yes.
Yes.
Well, I kept asking her, "Is this a yes, or are you saying yes, or what?" So,
pray about it.
Yeah, it was good, man. So we had a good time.
That's good. That's exciting. Congratulations, Jeff and
sure.
Cherie.
Thank you.
Congratulations
to Cherie more. So.
There we go. All right. So enough about you. Can we'll move on to the guest. Welcome, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to have you on. So, we wanted to, I guess, kind of get into. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. You're in recovery, correct?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I've been sober for a little over 2 years. I had been trying to get sober for quite some time. Mm-hmm. This has been an ongoing thing for me for, I want to say about 15 years. But really, when I realized that my addiction and alcoholism started to get out of hand, 2017, I lost my mother. And my life took a turn for the worse, right? It gotten so bad that my girlfriend at the time, who I was living with, my kid's mother, put me out the house. They didn't want anything to do with me anymore. My whole life was just chaos, right? Mm-hmm. So that led me to the streets and the hotel rooms. Originally in Hammond.
That's where you're from, is Hammond?
Yes.
So the streets of Hammond?
Yes.
Which street?
Yeah. So
the hard streets.
Of Hammond.
We were actually talking about that on the way here. How miserable it is to be outside right now in this, hell that we call Louisiana, 100 degrees.
Yeah, and so like in Hammond, there isn't much of like, I want to say like a homeless community, right? Yeah. So like you're kind of like a sore thumb when you're out there like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember getting a phone call from my kid's mother at the time, and some of her family members would like call her and be like, dude, Ryan is out of his mind. I just seen him walking down the street on crutches. I had broke my foot out there, and that's how I was out there like that.
Oh, you weren't just doing the crutch thing to try to fly aside?
No.
I've seen that before, right? I know quite a few people who have actually like faked an injury, flying signs and just trying to get money.
Well, how many people thought that's what he was probably doing though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so this kid's out here acting like he's got a broke foot.
So for me, I could never do that, man. I could never. And I remember like getting involved with individuals, and they would tell me, "Look, man, just get you a little piece of cardboard and write something on it, and people will bless you." And I'm just like, I guess my pride, the little pride that I had left, I couldn't
that
do.
Junkie pride.
Yeah, I couldn't do that. So for me, I would, resort to other ways of getting money. That
I won't beg for it, but I'll steal it.
Yeah, I will take. I will take your stuff.
I'm not a beggar, though, but I'll. Yeah.
Right. So, and then a friend of mine, I reached out to a friend of mine who'd been in a program for quite a while, and he got me into a detox in Baton Rouge, and that's what initially got me to the Baton Rouge. And
is that like your first experience with AA recovery or being sober? Or anything? Okay.
Yeah, it was. And it turned into a revolving thing, right? I would go to treatment, go to sober living, and really just like hang out. Yeah. Hang around AA. I wasn't actually in AA. I was basically just going through the motions, right? Yep. So that went on for quite a while, and eventually I got to the point where I couldn't go back to treatment, right? I was just embarrassed at how many times I'd been doing this. And I stayed out there, man. And I stayed out there in the misery. And that's when I started going to prison. I started catching felonies.
This was 2017 and beyond, right? Before that, you were just kind of like managing.
Yeah, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Well, man, I was gonna say that's like obviously on this podcast we talk about all the positives of treatment, right? But sometimes, like you kind of discuss the negative part of it, and what I mean by that is like, how many times do I run in and out, run in and out, run in and out? But I never have that like. Yeah, man, life's terrible, living on the streets and all that. Right. But, like, if I can run back in and get me 30 days and some meal, or 7 days.
Right.
And then go back out, and if I mess up 2 weeks later, I can call. It's like sometimes it keeps us from hitting that.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying?
And we talked about it a little bit with, like, the transition of treatment and, like, how much it's changed from, the commercial insurance days to the Medicaid expansion where, it allowed for more people to go to treatment. But there was also this area opened up to everybody and to continuously go around and kind of hit all the facilities. Like, how many facilities you been to?
About 8.
About 8?
I went to Woodlake quite a few times.
That's including your detox days too?
No. Just this is residential.
So we're talking double digits.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Almost every behavioral hospital out there.
So they used to have a lot more detox centers. Right? Where that's what they did. They detoxed you and it wasn't so much a residential stay.
Right.
So you go to a detox center and then you'd go to your residential place. So so those digits, are can accumulate,
But like you said, when I first started doing this, you couldn't go to treatment that many times in a year, and it got to a point where my insurance was like, "Look, I remember I was
you got to chill."
I was in Covington Behavioral.
This ain't working. We need to try something else.
Right. So I was in Covington Behavioral Health Hospital. I was detoxing, and I wanted to go back to treatment, and I had been to treatment 3 times that year already, and they said your insurance isn't going to pay for it, so they shipped me to a 1-year program in Houston, Texas, the Texas House. And dude, I remember I went out there. I had every intentions of doing the deal, right? Actually putting in the work. And then I got there, and it was like
it's like a work camp.
It was a work camp. It was a work camp, and it was one of those behavioral modification camps where you had confrontation with other clients. You had to like call each other out, and I was involved in that for about 2 weeks, and I said, "No, man, I'm not doing this." So I left with a garbage bag full of clothes, and now I'm stranded on the streets of Houston, Texas. Okay?
Yeah, Houston, Texas bridges aren't as good as Austin, Texas, are they?
We've talked about he might not know. That's been the running joke. Jeff talked about how nice.
Yeah, living under a bridge in Austin was.
Oh yeah.
Now Houston's got some pretty nice bridges though. They're just not very comfortable.
Well, I'm sure the streets of Houston are much different than of Hammond.
Right. For sure.
I'm certain of that.
You didn't have vehicle or anything like that.
Oh no, Jeff, I was on foot, and let me tell you how quick my mind changed when I was on the streets of Houston. I said, okay, I just made a mistake. I know I want to get better. I know I want to complete a 28-day program and get my life back together. I just don't want to do it here. Okay. Yeah. So I reached out to back out to Woodlake, man, and I told them that I wanted to come back to one of their sober livings, and they said, "Come on." So, but they, of course, they wasn't gonna come get me, right?
Yeah,
it's a long Uber ride.
That's a long Uber ride.
So I found a meeting, and I went to a meeting, and I told the people in the meeting my situation, told them what I had going on and where I was trying to go and what I was trying to accomplish. And these people, they put me in the back room for about a week and a half on a cot, and they put together some money for me and gave me a bus ticket and got me back to Lafayette. I went to ARC. And of course, I keep telling myself that I want to do something different. I want to get my life back together. I have a daughter. I wanted to be there for, but I guess I never really did anything about the mental obsession, right? The mental obsession, all I ever did was remove myself from the problem for a short amount of time. I never did any work on, the underlying issues and all that
that's the thing,
stuff.
We talk a lot about that. You can try to remove yourself from some areas, situations, but everywhere that you go, yourself follows, right?
Right, for sure.
And if you're not doing any work on yourself to really address those underlying issues, nothing's really changing. We talk about that all the time.
I keep going back to the cot at the meeting. We need to get one of those.
But they've done that a lot in some clubhouses, where they put somebody up, and that's pretty awesome to hear that that there's people out there that are still doing that. But what was this, 2017?
This was 2019.
Okay.
2019. Yeah. And again, I continued the cycle for quite a while, in and out. And for me, what did it, I think this time, is I did that for so long and nothing ever worked out in my favor. And I guess you could say I gave up. I gave up on any type of program. I felt as if I was one of those people that the book talks about that are constitutionally incapable, or the ones that are the hopeless variety, I guess you could say. So my last run, I went back out in the streets, man, in and out of hotel rooms and tents, living, like we were just talking about, living outside for quite a while. And then I started catching felonies. I started catching charges, in and out of jail. I would do 9 months, do a year, get out, do the same thing. And that went on for quite some time. That went on for a few years as well. And then I don't know, man, something clicked this last time when I was in prison. I remember talking to my daughter on the wall phone, and she asked me, she said, she's 10 now, but at the time she was 7. She said, "Daddy, why do you keep leaving me?" And I guess something registered, and I remember the people in the rooms and in the treatment centers, what they've been trying to tell me all along, and I had some time to think about it.
Yeah,
How long were you there, man?
This last time, right around a year. I was in drug court, and I violated drug court, and it's funny. I was on probation in 3 parishes: Livingston Parish Drug Court, East Baton Rouge probation, and Tangipahoa probation, for a list of felonies. And they all come together, and they agreed to send me to the Don Francois program in Faraday, Concordia. Concordia Parish Prison.
Yeah,
it was like
any of those programs out that way.
Like a DOC treatment. But
that's government. That's a different type of government pay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
it wasn't much treatment about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in prison.
Yeah.
I was in a dorm with guys that were getting ready to go home. The reentry program for them, and then there was like 15 of us violators who were there for the program. And all it consisted of was they pulled us out the dorm on Thursdays to watch a movie, a recovery movie.
Right. Yeah, recovery, education, something like that.
Right. Right. So I don't know, man. I told myself that when I went home, I was going to try again. I was going to try again. That's all I could do, right? Because at this point, I've lost everything. I've lost my position as a father. I for surely didn't have a job. I didn't have any money. The family that I do have left, they didn't really, want much to do with me, considering how I've been behaving over the past 6 or 7 years. After my mom died, I really went down a darkward spiral. And I came home, man, and I came home with a garbage bag with some DOC sweats and some paperwork. And I drove to Woodlake, and I had a conversation with one of our guys, and I told him what was going on and how I wanted to do things different. And
which Woodlake did you go to?
The Life Center.
Oh, you just went to IOP?
Yeah.
Okay. So the last treatment you went to was outpatient treatment?
Yes.
Before getting sober, so you didn't go back into residential or anything like that.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this in the past. Is like, look, somebody like Ryan at that time, right, had just gotten out of prison for a year, but made a commitment in a sense, right?
I knew I had to do something.
And so probably may not have even been able to get into
Qualified,
residential treatment, but there was something available for you to get some help.
Right.
Yeah.
So the guy that I was talking to set me up with a sober living and suggested IOP then OP, and I said, man, what can it hurt? You know,
you can say the guy's name.
Okay, I wasn't sure. I'm talking about Mr. Frank Carter.
Mr. Frank Carter. Oh,
Mr. Frank.
Yeah. Mr. Frank.
So
Carter.
no, I had a conversation with Frank, man, because Frank and is one of those individuals that I didn't know personally at the time, but I'd seen his progression from, you know, my short stints in the room, right? And his progression in his career and how, you know, the program has you know, changed his life.
Yeah, worked in his life.
Where was he working at the time? At the Life Center, or was he working in Denver?
No, he was still at the Life Center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was before he went to Mid-City and then came back.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you know, it was suggested that I get a sponsor and I do all these things. Now, mind you, I have external motivators as well, right?
I thought he was about to say I have autism. Okay, well that's okay.
I have pressure on me too, right?
Yeah, right.
But I knew I wanted better, man. I can't continue to keep living how I'm living. I have a daughter who needs me, you know. So,
and I think I'm just to you know kind of butt in, man, is that most of us come to either treatment or recovery or whatever it is because of external motivators. Like, it's not like that's just the truth. Now, hopefully at some point along the way, and it has to be for me to be successful, there has to be internal motivation as well. But like, there's got to be like relationships are bad, prison. I'm looking at it, like most people aren't like my life is pretty much catastrophic for me to be seeking out this help, right? I'm sick and I need help. Like, and so I think it's pretty common for us to have external motivators early on, for sure.
Well, yeah, and that's part of it too. We, like you said, those external motivators, we will say, I'm going to treatment for this, or I'm going to treatment for her, or I'm going to treatment for my kids, right? But there's no amount of kids, no amount of this, no amount of that can lead me on a path to recovery, right? And allow me to stay sober. Those are the decisions that we have to make for ourselves and find out the reasons we're not staying sober. It's not the daughter, you know, it's not the jails, you know, anything like that. It's us.
I heard somebody say in a meeting once, they said, I don't care what brought you here, I care about what keeps you here.
Right, yeah.
You know, and that made a lot of sense to me, because the fact is, man, is that like, yeah, I have to do this for myself, but there are some reasons that I'm trying to do this.
Like, because look, I've had external motivators before
in the past,
and that did no justice for anybody.
Hence the year-long in prison.
That did no. Right, I remember when they first gave me drug court. I mean, I was back out within a week or so. And like Jeff said, I think this time it has to be coupled with that internal decision. You have to have had enough. And that was my story.
I think, you know, like we've talked about before, and, you know, what led me in the last time is the inability to make a decision on what was real, right, and what wasn't. And like for my mind to have been completely gone, right? And to have thought that I was such an educated person that all this stuff that I think is going on can't not be real. You know what I mean? And so like we talked about different levels of rock bottom, and you know, hearing yours and Jason's and mine, it just goes to show proof of that even further, right? Like, what constitutes somebody's push towards, you know, living a different life and getting sober, or you know, going to treatment. The other part of that, you know, like what would you say? I know you kind of, you know, mentioned around, but what would you say like your realization of rock bottom truly was?
I want to, if I'm being honest, it was two situations for me. One being the conversation we had on the way here about being stuck out. throughout my whole career of drinking and other things, it didn't look like that for me. But when it got to that point where all my family had cut ties with me, friends, where I was completely out of options, and I was on Segan Lane in what they call Tent City.
Yeah.
Like
in that moment,
it's crazy out there.
I had an overwhelming feeling of this ain't it. I gotta do something. And of course I didn't, right? But the thought was there.
Yeah.
The desire to change was there. The obsession was so strong that nothing else mattered in those times but the next one.
I saw a video, man. It's on social media, and there's a guy that he's got a pretty big platform, right? And he rides around and he offers people in the streets full scholarships. Have you seen those?
Oh yeah, I follow him. Yeah.
Most people where he's saying, I'll pay for everything. I'll this, I'll that, I'll blah, blah. And but when you said that, that's what it made me think of, watching those videos. And he's like, you know, I'll pay for the trips. I'll help you while you're there. You need shoes. Okay, we'll stop and get. And they're like,
good.
You know, and you talked about the obsession being where it overrides everything else, where these people are literally turning down all of it. No thanks.
Right.
It's wild, man.
And I think that's part of like what we talked about a couple weeks ago. You know, the obsession being so strong, also what change looks like, the fear of change, doing something different, living a different life, what that life looks like, you know, my perception of what change is, those type of things, because that can divert us from seeking help.
Right.
You know, altogether, right? Just the idea of living a different life and, you know, trying to compare your life to what somebody else's is and stuff like that. And the other part of it is not even being able to imagine your life any different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest part for me, was like this reality that was so unattainable to me. I see all these people and they get their lives together and this and that. For me, that was an impossibility.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So if it seemed like such an impossibility to me, why even try it?
And the norm.
Yeah.
If I'm living, I know what you're talking about. And if I'm living with all these other people, like my normal is this now. It's not normal, but like we're all doing it. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like it is. It's a crazy thing, man. There's one out close to work that I heard the land got sold and they're about to start bulldozing out there, man. That's this like wild, looks like a third world country of just, it's over there. It's literally like, but anyways.
What are they trying to do?
So, but it's like kind of like he's talking about. It's this community that they built out there. That I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But it's out in Livingston Parish, and I heard that the land got sold or whatever, and they're having but that's their normal. I drive by that, man, and I'm like, what in the but those people that's their normal, you know, and it's like, why do anything different?
And what's crazy, Jason, is I remember my time back there and having conversations with individuals that had been there forever. I mean, quite like years, bro. Been living back there for so long, and I would tell them, you know, I'm waiting on such and such to come get me so I can go to detox, and I'm trying to get in a treatment center, and I'd be like, you want to come with me? And they're like, no.
Guys, thank y'all for watching part 1 this week of Beyond the Struggle. Make sure to tune in next week for episode 2 with Mr. Jeff and Mr. Ryan. Also, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. View, I don't know, do all that stuff, guys. Thank y'all again for joining us.